The sky cracked with fire as the human's escape pod fell through the clouds. It roared like thunder and smashed into the ground just outside the forbidden's jungle. Smoke rose, birds scattered, and creatures nearby growled, but the human inside was alive, breathing, and already crawling out with shaky arms. His name was Jace. He didn't know this place. He didn't know the rules, and worst of all, he didn't know about the guardian in the trees above. An alien girl with purple eyes and moss-colored hair watched him silently. Her name was Sira. She had followed the fire from the sky and found the wreck. When she saw the human, she whispered to herself, "He's going to die." Everyone on the planet knew what happened to those who stepped into the Guardian's land. The beast didn't care who you were. It didn't care if you had weapons, armor, or prayers. It devoured all, but Jace didn't run. He coughed, stood up slowly, and looked around. His clothes were torn, and he had no food. His device was broken, his weapons gone. All he had was a small bag and a cracked water bottle. He limped forward into the jungle, not knowing that every step brought him closer to the Guardian. Sira followed from a distance, curious. She had never seen a human before. She had only read old texts about them, dangerous, clever, and sometimes kind. The sun began to set, and the trees grew darker. Jace found a clearing and dropped to his knees. He pulled out a small protein bar and split it in two. He ate one half and left the other beside a rock. Sira tilted her head, confused. Why leave food out? She wondered. Then she saw the branches move. The ground shook, and the trees parted as the Guardian arrived. It was massive, taller than a house, with thick black fur, glowing eyes, and tusks like knives. Its breath was like steam, hot and angry. It sniffed the air and spotted the human sitting quietly near the rock. Sira's heart pounded. She almost screamed to warn him, but Jace didn't move. He just lifted his hand slowly, showing he had no weapon. Then he pointed at the food. The Guardian growled, deep and low. Then it stepped forward, sniffed the protein bar, and slowly, very slowly ate it. Jace smiled and nodded. The beast stared at him for a long time, then walked around him in a slow circle. It made one final sound, like a heavy sigh, then lay down beside him. Sira gasped, covering her mouth. That had never happened before. People ran, screamed, or died, but this human sat and fed it, and the Guardian was calm. She waited an hour, hoping it was a trick, but the beast didn't attack. It closed its eyes and rested. The human lay down, too, shivering slightly, and the night passed without blood. In the morning, Sira finally stepped out of the trees. Her voice was shaking, but she had to ask. She had to know if her eyes were playing tricks. "Did you just tame our Guardian?" "Human?" she said. Jace blinked, confused. Then he looked at the beast sleeping beside him. He rubbed his neck and said quietly, "I just gave it food." Sira walked closer, one careful step at a time. She had studied beasts all her life. She had seen what this one had done to soldiers, hunters, and even priests. But now it was purring softly in its sleep, like a huge cat. She couldn't believe it. No one would believe it. If she didn't see it herself, she would call it a lie. Jace stood up and stretched. He looked tired but calm. "What's your name?" he asked. Sira hesitated. "You're not scared?" "Of what?" he said, smiling. "The monster?" She nodded, pointing at the Guardian. Jace looked at the beast again. "I think it was just hungry," he said. "Or maybe just lonely." Those words struck Sira deep. No one had ever spoken like that about the Guardian. To them it was a curse, a weapon, a wall of teeth and fury. But this human saw something different. She didn't know why, but she believed him. Suddenly, a loud buzzing came from the tree's drones. Sira's eyes widened. "The elders," she said. "They must have tracked your crash." Jace looked up and saw the metal eyes in the sky. He grabbed his bag quickly. Sira ran forward and grabbed his hand. "Follow me," she said. "If they see what you did, they'll call it a threat." The Guardian lifted its head and watched them. It didn't move, but it made a sound, a soft growl. Like a warning, Jace looked back at it and nodded. "I'll come back," he said. Then he ran into the forest with Sira. And the story of the human who tamed the untamable had just begun. Sira couldn't sleep that night. She lay on the cold stone floor of her room, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts were not calm. They raced like wind through broken leaves. She had seen something that should not be possible. The guardian, the most feared beast of her people, had rested beside a human like a gentle pet. She pressed her hands over her heart, still trying to believe her own eyes. That human, Jace, was strange, soft-spoken, but not weak. There was something wild and calm inside him at the same time. Something the guardian had seen too. Sira rose. Before the suns climbed the sky, she slipped through the quiet temple halls with careful feet. No one noticed her yet. In her hand she carried a small hollow crystal, hidden in her sleeve. She had recorded the entire moment in the jungle, the human, the beast, the peace between them. She stepped into the grand chamber, where the elders sat like carved statues. The high voice, a tall, thin male with silver eyes, looked down at her. "What brings you before the council before dawn, child?" he asked. Sira bowed, voice firm but polite. "I have seen something important," she said, "and you must see it too." She placed the crystal on the floor, and light rose from it. The image showed the human sitting near the guardian, the beast walking around him, calm and quiet, and then the guardian sleeping beside him like it found peace. The elders watched with frozen faces. One whispered a prayer, another hissed softly in fear. When the image ended, silence filled the room. Sira raised her head, hope flickering in her eyes. "He tamed it," she said. "Not with force, not with tech, just by feeding it, trusting it." The high voice stood slowly, his voice sharp. "That thing cannot be tamed," he said. "This is a trick, a false image." Sira shook her head. "It's real. I was there. I saw it all." An old female elder narrowed her eyes. "Or perhaps the guardian is broken." She muttered. Another barked. "Or the human has dark powers." They argued like storm winds, louder and faster. No one believed what she showed them. Then came the worst part, the punishment. The high voice ordered her grounded, confined to temple walls for spreading dangerous lies. Sira's heart sank, but her voice didn't break. "Then lock me up," she said. "But soon the truth will find you." Even here, they took the crystal, but not before she made a backup, one she had hidden in her small satchel, deep in her room. She would not let the truth die in silence. Elsewhere, far from the temple, Jace was washing his face in a clear stream. The guardian sat nearby, its massive body half hidden by trees. It didn't speak, but it always watched him. Jace began to feel like it understood him in ways even humans never did. He looked into the beast's golden eyes and asked, half joking, "You gonna eat me one day?" The guardian blinked slowly, then huffed. Jace chuckled. "Didn't think so." Suddenly, something moved in the bushes, not an animal, but a shadow, quiet, practiced, hunting. Jace stood up fast, his hand going to his knife. Then the guardian growled low, a warning. A sharp arrow flew through the trees and hit the dirt near his foot. 3 masked figures stepped out, armored and armed. "By order of the council," one said, "the human must be removed." Jace didn't run. He stood still, breathing steady. The guardian rose behind him, slow and rising like a mountain. The 3 attackers froze, weapons shaking. "You have one chance to leave," Jace said calmly. The guardian took a step forward, baring its teeth. The attackers turned and ran without another word. Back at the temple, a secret door opened quietly at midnight. Sira stepped out, hood over her head. A hand grabbed her from the side, an old priest with white scars on his face. "You showed them the truth," he whispered, "and now they fear it." She nodded, her eyes burning with questions. The old priest leaned closer, voice trembling. "I was there when the guardian first came," he said. "It came from the stars, from before our time." "What are you saying?" Sira asked. "It was not made by us," he said. "It was left behind by the first humans." Sira stepped back, her heart pounding. The Guardian was theirs? She asked. The priest nodded. And now, he said, it remembers. Sira felt the world shift under her feet. Everything she knew, her people's legends. The Guardian's fury, it all changed with that one truth. She looked to the stars. Knowing the human out there was not just a stranger, he was part of something ancient, something forgotten, and maybe, just maybe, he had come to wake it all again. The council chamber was colder than usual, not because of the weather, but because of fear. The elders sat in a tight circle, their voices hushed, their eyes filled with unease. They had watched the Guardian obey a human. That image refused to leave their minds. He must be eliminated, said Elder Varn, his hand clenched on the stone table. He's dangerous, whispered another. The Guardian listens to him. It never listened to us. He could turn it against us, said a third. He could destroy the city with a single command. Fear made their words sharp. Fear made their decision final. The human must die, the high voice declared. Tonight, at that very moment. Jace was sitting beneath a tree, sharpening a broken metal rod. It wasn't a weapon, not really, but it made him feel less helpless. The Guardian was curled beside him like a mountain of fur and breath. He glanced at the beast and said, "You don't talk much, huh?" The Guardian didn't move, but its ear twitched like it understood. Jace sighed and leaned back against the tree. He wasn't sure what this place was. He wasn't sure why the giant beast hadn't killed him, but something deep in his bones told him to stay. Far away, hidden in the dark forest, 5 masked figures moved like shadows. They wore cloaks that swallowed light and boots that made no sound. Each one carried a curved blade soaked in poison. They were not ordinary soldiers. They were silent ones, killers trained by the elders for missions that must never be spoken. Sira didn't sleep. She paced her small room, her heart heavy. The old priest's words still echoed in her ears. The Guardian remembers, he had said. She knew what the council would do next. They wouldn't accept the truth. They would try to erase it. And that meant Jace's life was in danger. She grabbed her satchel, slipped out through the servants' gate, and ran. The forest was thick, the night full of sharp sounds and glowing eyes, but she didn't stop. She had to find him. She had to warn him. The silent ones reached the edge of the clearing. There he was sitting peacefully, watching the stars. One raised his hand, signaling the attack. But something happened. The Guardian lifted its head and growled. Not like before, not soft, not sleepy. This growl shook the trees and made birds scatter. Jace stood slowly, his metal rod in hand. He saw the masked men step into the light, their blades drawn. He didn't know who they were, but their silence told him everything. "I don't want trouble," he said. No answer, only cold. Eyes behind black masks, the first attacker rushed forward, blade swinging before it could strike. The Guardian slammed into him like a thunderstorm. The ground cracked where the assassin fell, bones snapping under weight. The others moved fast like shadows, but the beast was faster. It swiped, bit, roared, and threw bodies like dolls. Jace backed away slowly, not sure whether to be grateful or terrified. Then he saw Sira running into the clearing, breathless, her face pale. "They sent killers," she said. "I tried to stop them," Jace nodded, his eyes scanning the chaos. 4 attackers down, one crawling away through the brush, blood on the leaves, silence thick in the air. The Guardian growled once more, but this time it was softer, like it had done what it needed. Then it sat back, down, its chest rising slowly. Sira walked to Jace's side and looked at the bodies. "They'll call this an attack," she whispered. "They'll twist it. Make you the enemy." "I figured," Jace said, wiping blood from his arm. "But I didn't start this." The one assassin who crawled away reached the edge of the woods. His hand trembling, he pulled out a small device. He whispered one word into it. "Failed. Activate Plan B." Miles away, deep beneath the temple, a sealed chamber opened. Inside, something old and alive stirred. Long body, armored shell, sharp teeth that had not bitten in years. It was called the hunter worm. It had only one purpose: kill. The unkillable. Sira didn't know yet. Jace didn't know either. But something worse was coming. The guardian stood again, sniffing the air. Its eyes narrowed, its fur bristled. It looked toward the horizon like it sensed something rising from below. What is it? Jace asked, stepping closer. The beast didn't answer, but Sira did. Her voice cracked as she looked into the distance. They've unleashed the worm. The trees began to tremble. The earth shook, and from deep beneath the roots came a sound. Like stone screaming. The true hunt had begun. The ground didn't just shake, it breathed. It pulsed like a giant heartbeat beneath their feet. Jace stood still, trying to stay balanced. The guardian growled again, this time louder, rougher. Like it was warning the entire forest. Sira grabbed Jace's arm and whispered with wide eyes, "It's the hunter worm." They actually let it loose, from far beneath the surface. Something ancient had awakened. It had no eyes, no ears, only hunger. It moved through the ground like a godless serpent, drawn by motion and scent. It had slept for years under sacred soil. Now it had a target, the human who tamed the guardian. Jace didn't know what the hunter worm looked like, but the way the trees cracked and birds fled made it clear this thing wasn't small. He stepped in front of Sira without thinking, gripping the broken rod in his hand. The guardian moved beside him, fur rising, paws digging into the dirt like it prepared for war. Then it came. The forest floor exploded, and a long armored body burst upward. Its mouth opened like a flower made of teeth. Sira screamed, but didn't run. Jace stood frozen, but his heart pounded not with fear, but with defiance. The worm landed hard, shaking trees to their roots. It coiled and hissed, then lunged. The guardian struck first, slamming into its side with all its strength. The two beasts crashed into each other like living mountains. Jace pulled Sira behind a fallen log, then turned back to watch. The worm wrapped around the guardian, trying to crush it. Jace looked around, searching for anything sharp, anything useful. He found an old spear buried under a tree root, probably from a long-dead warrior. He yanked it free and ran forward. Sira shouted, "After him! What are you doing?" "I'm not watching it die for me," he said without stopping. The guardian struggled, biting into the worm's thick flesh, but the worm was strong, too strong. Jace ran beside the worm's side, aimed the spear, and jammed it deep into its underbelly. The beast shrieked, twisting away, releasing the guardian for just a moment. The guardian broke free and slammed its claws into the worm's jaw. Blood sprayed across the trees, thick and black. Jace rolled away as the worm thrashed wildly. A tree cracked and fell, nearly crushing him. Sira ran to his side, pulling him back as the battle raged on. "You're insane," she muttered, tears in her eyes. Jace looked at her and smiled weakly. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm not leaving my friend." The guardian stood again, bloody and panting. It roared and charged, biting down on the worm's throat. The worm slammed into the ground, dragged itself back underground, and vanished. Silence returned, but it didn't last long. A second quake hit, then a third. Sira's voice cracked. "There's more than one." 3 new holes exploded open. 3 more worms rose, each larger than the last. The guardian backed up, eyes wide, body trembling. Even it couldn't take on all 3 alone. Jace stepped forward again, no weapon this time, only his voice. "Over here," he shouted. He picked up a burning branch from the earlier fight. He waved it, ran, screamed, drawing the worm's attention. Sira's eyes widened in horror. "No!" she cried. "They'll tear you apart." The guardian looked at Jace and made it sound something like a deep, angry bark. Then it ran after him, following as the worms gave chase. Jace led them toward the cliffside, lungs burning, legs failing. He didn't know what the plan was. He just needed to give them a chance. The worms were fast, too fast. One lunged and nearly grabbed his foot. The guardian slammed into it from the side again, but this time with more force. Jace reached the edge of the cliff and stopped. Behind him air, nothing but open sky, and deep water below. The worms didn't stop. They came straight at him. Jace closed his eyes for a second, then whispered, "Now." The guardian leapt from the trees above, using its full weight to knock the lead worm off balance. Together, the worm and the beast tumbled over the edge, disappearing into the water far below. A huge splash echoed across the valley, followed by silence. Jace fell to his knees, chest heaving. The remaining two worms hissed, then turned and vanished back underground. Maybe the guardian's sacrifice had been enough. Maybe they were just confused. Either way, they were gone. Sira ran to him, fell beside him, and grabbed his shoulders. "You could have died," she whispered. Jace laughed quietly. "So could you." They sat in the grass, staring at the place where the guardian fell. Jace whispered, "He saved me." Sira nodded slowly. "No," she said. "You saved him first." Then something moved in the water far below, a shape large, slow, and rising. The guardian wasn't dead. It was climbing back up, one paw at a time. Jace stood up and whispered, with a smile, "Good boy." And Sira looked at him, her voice soft and full of awe. "I've never seen anything like you." The rain fell that night, not like normal rain, but slow, steady, like the planet itself was grieving. The trees bowed low, and the wind whispered through the valley. Jace sat beside the guardian, both of them soaked, both of them silent. They had survived the attack. The worms were gone, and the forest had returned to stillness, but nothing felt calm. Sira stood nearby, arms wrapped around herself, watching the fire Jace had built. Her eyes kept drifting to the guardian's wounds, deep cuts across its side, burns across its fur. It had risked everything to protect Jace. No one had ever seen the beast do that. Not for anyone, not even for the old kings. Jace leaned forward and whispered, "You should have stayed down there, big guy." The guardian slowly turned its head, its golden eyes locking onto his. Then, for the first time, it spoke. The voice didn't come from its mouth. It came from everywhere, like thunder inside Jace's skull. The words were clear, slow, ancient. "I was not meant to kill," it said. "I was meant to protect." Jace froze. Sira gasped, backing away slightly. The guardian spoke again. "My voice was sealed long ago," it said, "but you awakened it." Jace swallowed hard. He looked at Sira, who shook her head. "No living being has ever heard its voice," she whispered. "Not in 1,000 years." The guardian raised its head, slowly, the firelight reflecting in its eyes. "I was made," it said, "not born." Sira stepped forward carefully. "Made? By who?" she asked. The beast blinked once, then turned its gaze to the stars. "By your ancestors," it said. "By the first humans." Jace's heart skipped a beat. "That can't be," he muttered. "Humans never came here before. Long ago." The guardian said, "Your kind arrived during the Great Silence. They left behind machines, cities, and me." Sira fell to her knees. "All our legends," she whispered. "They speak of a god-beast from the sky. They erased the rest." "I was not their god," the guardian said. "I was their servant." Jace stepped closer. "So why didn't you say anything before?" "I was broken," it answered. "My memory lost, my voice locked, my mind trapped in cycles of anger. But you fed me, touched me without fear, and your presence restored what was lost." Sira's face turned pale. "If that's true, then the elders, they knew," she said slowly. "They must have known all along." The guardian didn't deny it. "They feared me," it said, "and feared the truth that your people were never the first." Jace sat down, overwhelmed. It all made sense now. The strange tech buried in the ground, the human-like carvings in temple ruins, the guardian's strange reaction to him. He wasn't just a visitor to this world. He was part of its buried history. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air. A spear flew from the trees and landed inches from Jace's foot. Sira screamed and jumped to her feet. Figures emerged from the shadows, warriors. Dozens of them, armored in black and silver. "The council has sent their army," Sira said in horror. They want the Guardian silenced forever. Jace stood, fists clenched. He looked at the Guardian. You can't fight them in your condition, he said. They'll tear you apart. I will stand, the beast said. But I will not fight alone. More voices came through the trees, not soldiers. This time, rebels, farmers, exiles, people from villages who had seen what Jace did, who had heard whispers, one by one. They stepped out with torches, staffs, and old rifles. They stood between the Guardian and the Council army. Sira looked around in awe. They're here for you, she said softly. For us. Jace didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired, scared, and full of doubt. But he also felt something else, responsibility. The kind that came from being trusted. He stepped forward, raised both hands, and shouted, This Guardian isn't your enemy. It was left behind to protect, not destroy. If you attack it, you're killing your own history. The soldiers hesitated. Even the commanders looked unsure. Then a voice shouted from behind, Kill the human. Kill the beast. A blast of energy lit the sky. The Guardian roared, stepping in front of Jace, shielding him from the blast. Smoke covered the battlefield, and in the chaos, one word rang out louder than all. Enough. The old priest stepped forward, robe torn, eyes blazing. You want to erase the past? He shouted, Then erase me too. Everything froze. No one moved. Even the Guardian lowered its head in respect. Sira looked at Jace and whispered, The truth is out. He nodded. The first torch was lit in silence. A small flame flickered in the hands of an old alien farmer. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He just stepped forward and stood between the soldiers and the Guardian. The second torch rose moments later. A young girl from the outskirts, her arm wrapped in a torn scarf, showing the symbol of the ancients. Then a third, then 10, then 50, within minutes. The trees glowed with light from every direction. Jace looked around in disbelief. Sira whispered beside him, These are the marked. They remember the old ways. Across the valley, warriors of the council began to hesitate. This wasn't a battlefield anymore. This was a gathering, not of weapons, but of wills. The people had chosen. The Guardian stood tall in the center, still bleeding but strong. It let out a slow, deep sound, not a threat, but something like a call, low, rhythmic, ancient. And the marked answered, humming in unison, their torches swaying. A ritual not seen in hundreds of years. High on the cliff, the council watched in fury. Elder Varn slammed his staff against the stone. They dare stand with the beast? He spat. They choose the outsider over us? They choose truth, said the scarred priest beside him. He had survived silence too long, and now he no longer bowed. You feared the past so much you tried to bury it with blood. The council gave the command to advance, but only half the soldiers moved, the rest some trembling. Some calm dropped their weapons and joined the marked. Sira looked at Jace, her eyes wide. You're not just a visitor anymore, she said. You've become the spark. Jace didn't know how to feel. He had crashed here by accident. He had no army, no great powers. And yet they stood with him, because he listened. Because he saw the Guardian not as a monster, but as a friend. The wind shifted suddenly. Dust rose in the distance. More council forces, armored, angry, well-armed. Reinforcements, Sira said. This time they'll burn everything. Jace stepped forward, his voice steady. No, he said. This time, we don't run. He walked toward the edge of the ridge, raised both arms, and shouted. I don't want war, he said. But I won't let you erase what matters. The soldiers below aimed their blasters. A commander shouted an order. But just as they fired, nothing happened. Their weapons sparked, shorted out, and died. Every light, every machine in their hands went dead. And then, from the ground, from beneath the roots, from the old machines buried deep, came a pulse. A deep thrum, slow and heavy, like the heartbeat of the world itself. The Guardian's eyes flared brighter. So did Jace's skin, faint lines across his arms glowing with soft light. What's happening to me? he whispered. Sira stared, breathless. You've activated something. Something old. The Guardian's voice echoed again. You carry the code, it said. The link that was lost is restored. Jace didn't understand it fully, but he felt it, deep, real. The machines beneath the ground were responding to him. The old network, once built by the first humans, was waking up. Not just weapons or power, but memory, images. Flickered in the air around him, holograms of the past humans and aliens working together. Building, laughing, living side by side. The marked fell to their knees, crying softly. They had waited generations to see this. The commander of the council forces dropped his helmet and whispered, "We were lied to." And many behind him turned away. The war was ending not with fire but with truth, but not all were ready to surrender. Elder Varn screamed from above, his face red with fury. If I can't rule, I'll ruin it all. He pressed a hidden control on his staff. Beneath them, a low rumble began. The ground split open, not by nature, but by design. A failsafe from long ago, a massive weapon buried in the earth, meant to destroy everything if the old power returned. The Guardian looked at Jace one last time. It must be stopped, it said. But only one with the code can do it. Jace nodded. Running toward the center of the crack, Sira followed him, grabbing his hand. If you die, she said, I'll follow. He squeezed her hand and smiled. Then let's not die. They leapt together into the broken earth, not knowing what machine waited below, only that if they failed, everyone above would vanish. And above them, as the marked held hands and the council crumbled, the world held its breath. But the war, he said, is just beginning. The heart of the world was not made of fire or stone. It was made of silence, the kind of silence that comes before a storm, before a choice, before a sacrifice. Jace and Sira stood inside a glowing chamber buried deep under the jungle. The walls pulsed with ancient energy, humming softly like they remembered his name. Massive cables ran through the roots of the world, connecting machines older than any living being. At the center stood a tall black obelisk, cracked but still alive. It waited not with anger, not with fear, but with purpose. Jace stepped forward slowly, his hands glowing again. The obelisk responded with light, symbols moving across its surface. Old human language, commands, warnings, and one final question blinking slowly in golden letters. Will you restore balance? Jace didn't fully understand the tech. He didn't know how or why it responded to him. But he knew one thing, this wasn't about control. It was about trust. He turned to Sira, her face lit by the soft blue light around them. I think I was never meant to rule, he said. I was meant to remember. Sira nodded, tears in her eyes. Then remember us all, she said, and save them. Jace placed his hand on the stone. The room exploded with light, not burning, not blinding, but warm. A wave of energy rippled through the planet. Up above, the weapon systems hidden under the jungle powered down one by one. The cracks in the ground sealed like healing wounds. The war was over. High above, the Guardian roared, not in pain, not in rage, but in relief. It stood tall on the ridge as the last of the soldiers dropped their weapons. The council fell to its knees, broken by truth, and then something no one expected happened. The Guardian turned its head toward the sky, looked at the twin moons, and collapsed. Jace and Sira climbed out of the ruins just in time to see it fall. They ran to it, voices trembling. No, 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 Jace said. Stay with me. The Guardian opened its eyes one last time. You remembered, it whispered. And that is enough. Then it went still, a final breath, a final peace. The marked cried softly. Even those who once feared the beast now bowed in silence. Jace sat beside the Guardian's body until the stars rose. Sira leaned on his shoulder, both of them quiet. Neither spoke until the first light of dawn touched the trees. Then the ground where the Guardian lay began to glow. Its body cracked gently like old bark. Light poured from within, white, golden, and calm. The form of the beast dissolved into sparkles, lifting slowly into the sky. From that light, a new shape formed. Smaller, younger, but familiar. 4 paws touched the earth again. A new guardian was born, fresh, wide-eyed, and still. The creature walked slowly toward Jace, then knelt. The old magic passed on. But not only into the new beast. A mark had appeared on Jace's hand, glowing faintly. A symbol of choice, of memory, of leadership, not by blood, but by honor, Sira. Touch the mark gently. You're one of us now, she whispered. Jace looked at the valley around them. People rising from fear, standing with torches not for war, but for unity. He turned to the new guardian, its eyes bright with curiosity. No more weapons, he said. No more chains. Only protection. The beast let out a soft sound like agreement. The priest who once feared to speak now raised his staff. Let the age of silence end, he said. Let the truth walk freely. From that day, Jace became more than a visitor. He became a bridge between the past and the future, between what was feared and what could be trusted. Sira stood at his side, not just as a friend, but as someone who saw what no one else had dared to see. They did not build an empire, they built peace. And the guardian watched from the hills, never chained again, not because it was feared, but because it was loved. Some say the stars blinked that night, as if the sky itself smiled at the return of something long forgotten. Not power, not glory, but connection. Jace once fell from the sky with nothing. Now he walked through a land where torches burned for him. Not because he was a warrior, but because he reminded them of something better, of what it meant to protect without asking anything in return.